Hey there, Editor Shannon here. This is the second part. Let's get on into it. On the subject Percy, one other little thing I probably would change because I think it's funny to flip it and it works better in my mind if it's flipped. And I flipped it before. Other people like this. In the Titan's Curse, Percy and Thalia's lines when they meet Apollo. So basically, it would be like Percy going, "Wow, Apollo's hot," and Thalia going, "Yeah, he's the sun god." Percy, that's not what I meant. It honestly, it just felt almost out of character for Thalia to say that. Not when I first read it because she was so new and I was starting to learn who she was, but now that we know her well, it just didn't really seem to fit her. But it does seem to fit Percy to make that comment. I mean, he calls Annabeth his dream girl. Like, it fits. It fits. But these are all minor changes I would make. Let's talk about some of the more crazy out there changes that I was going to make. The craziest, oh my god. This was years ago, mind you, before I even really tried to write a series and I was just coming up with silly ideas for the show. Not even silly. I'm not even going to call it silly because it was just crazy. I was going to have a Percy Jackson series with flash forwards to the Heroes of Olympus. The two stories were going to be told parallel to each other, though it was going to be a little different. Like, Heroes of Olympus was going to be out of order compared to Percy Jackson Olympian series. The Percy Jackson Olympian series was going to be told chronologically, with flash forwards to the Heroes of Olympus paralleling it, but not in chronological order what fit best with the scene. So obviously that's just wild, and I don't want to say it can't work. It would just take a lot of work to make it all work out, but there was one scene in my brain, and I don't even know if I could properly translate it with words. It has to be experienced because, like, so clear in my mind. And gosh, I do kind of wish I could do this just so I could film this one segment. And I don't want to build it up. No, maybe it's not that great. No, I'm kidding. It's good. So it is the beginning of the Titan's Curse, that area, and Percy arriving in New Rome. Those two stories are paralleling each other, right? And then we get to the scene with Dr. Thorne turning out to be the Manticore. And this is paralleling with Hazel taking Percy on a tour, and they run into Nico, who Percy doesn't remember. Now, they would have been played by two different actors because they're two different ages, right? Percy also would have been played by two different actors, but Nico is. And so there's fighting by Percy, right? Percy and Annabeth and Thalia are fighting the monsters. Bianca is holding Nico back, terrified, and this is juxtaposed by Hazel and Percy running into Nico in New Rome, and Hazel's like, "Oh, this is my brother. I want you to, meet him and all that." And Percy's like, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Percy." And back and forth between that and the fight, there's fighting. And then, Nico's sticking out his hand. And then it flashes back to Bianca and Nico. And Nico runs away from Bianca's grasp when she tries to grab him, but she misses. And he's running out to be a part of the action. And Nico grabs Percy's hand and says, "I'm Nico." And it flashes back to Bianca yelling, "Nico!" And you realize that Percy knew Nico and that maybe this isn't somebody he can trust, even though it later turns out he is. But the idea is that this is someone from Percy's past who doesn't want Percy to know he's from his past. And I really like the scene. I don't even think I'm doing it justice. I really am not. I don't know how to properly do it justice. Everything in my head, the music in the background, the lighting of the scene, exactly when each scene switches off is orchestrated so perfectly. And I really wish I could just put a camera in my head and show you. That has been like my daydream scene for a while now. I mean, we all have our daydream scenes, right? Those scenes that we create and play over and over and over again for fun. That's not just me, right? I doubt that's just me. Whew. So anyway, that was probably one of the biggest changes I was going to make. Another big change that probably would have been put along with that, or still would have happened if Heroes of Olympus could become a series, was when it comes to the Calypso and Nico outing scenes in the. I'm sorry, I fangirl so hard I can't breathe right now because I have crappy lungs. When it comes to the Calypso and Nico outing scene in House of Hades, I wanted to switch Jason and Leo, which now that I'm saying that, because I haven't actually thought about this in like 2 or 3 years, I don't actually want to do that now. Look, I really like Leo and I really like Nico, and I wanted them to have a bonding moment, which I felt the outing scene could be, especially since Leo has a very queer identity. I can't even put it any other way. He's straight to the point of acting. I don't know how to really explain it unless if you've watched Static Shock. Richie was straight to the point that it was clear he was acting because he's gay. Like, if you don't believe me on that, the creator literally said that's what he was doing. But that's how Leo feels. He is constantly he's constantly obsessed with girls, but he never actually goes out with girls, and he specifically goes for girls that are out of his league, so to speak. I don't really get the phrase out of the league because that implies that attractiveness is the only level in which someone physical attractiveness is the only level in which someone can be desired. But that's how they phrase it. That's how people phrase it. Basically, Leo goes after girls he knows he can't have. And it's very much a reading of this way people will know I'm straight when he isn't. People read him as gay. People read him as aro. I read it as various sexualities depending on the story I'm personally trying to tell in fan fiction because I don't know what his sexuality would be. I currently identify him as aro for reasons. Presently, my default is aro, but I honestly don't think Leo knows, so I don't really know. And I do change it depending on the fan fiction I'm writing at the moment. So the idea of two queer people bonding over not fully accepting their own sexualities would be interesting, and I felt that Jason and Calypso would have been an interesting mix because instead of the whole like, oh, she does fall in love with him, it was going to be the magic truly was broken and the boat did just happen to appear. There was no romance between them. The boat literally just happened to appear. And I like the idea of Jason and Calypso bonding platonically, and that triggering Jason to realize that maybe he doesn't actually have feelings for Piper. He's just going through motions because he was expected to. That was the default memory that Piper was given, and so he's kind of just been living with it. And the thing is, that would actually be a really sweet scene. And I think that that would be amazing to see Jason and Calypso become friends. But now that I'm saying it out loud, I cannot be robbed of Jason and Nico's friendship that evolves from the House of Hades scene where he's outed. where Nico's outed. So, yeah, that probably wouldn't actually happen, but it's on record now that I at one point thought it should. Now, starting the Percy Jackson series, starting the first episode, I had so many potential ideas of what could happen. I had even taken from other people's ideas and seeing what worked and what didn't, just because, like I said, I was trying to make my own series and I wanted to make the fans happy, so I was using their ideas as inspiration. But what I landed on was my own. Maybe somebody else also came up with it, but it definitely was my own creation. And I really liked how it was going to be. And this is the introduction that ended up being in the script that I sent Rick Riordan, which didn't work out, but you know what? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I might have missed this shot, but at least I took it. So we start with a college age kid. We don't see his face. We only see the back of him as he's walking through a dormitory hall. He stops at a door, opens it up, and when you walk in, you see two beds, messy. One has blue covers on it, like all sprawled about, and a stitched up pillow pet. As he walks in, still you can't see his face. You never once see his face in this. As he walks in, we get a glimpse of the window, and in the windowsill sits Moonlace, and how shimmery and shiny and eye-catching it is. Anyway, he walks over to his desk. The desk is a mess. It's cluttered with so much junk. There's no clean spot at all. And above it is a corkboard on the wall. Now, the corkboard is littered with pictures. You have pictures of Annabeth, of Grover, of Sally, Paul, Estelle, various pictures of everyone everywhere. But you don't see the man that is sitting down anywhere in the pictures, not even a younger version of himself. It's a psychological thing. Moving on. He clears off a spot on the desk. He pushes some stuff out of the way and grabs a blue journal and a pencil. It was a pencil. He also grabs a dictionary, sets it right down next to him. And the last thing he grabs is a bag of blue candies. Takes a piece of licorice out, takes a bite, opens up the page. He taps the pencil on it for a while, the eraser, just tap, 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 thinking, not really sure what to write. And then finally, it hits him. He takes pencil to paper and writes, "Hi, I'm Percy Jackson." Cut to the beginning of the story with Percy and Grover on the bus. Percy wrote this series. It's canon that he did, but we're seeing him write the series as a college student. And that was what I officially landed on, and I really like it. The reason why there's no pictures of him is it fits his personality pretty well. He doesn't care a lot about himself. He values other people way more than he values himself. That's shown in his. That's very much shown in his fatal flaw being loyalty, which I've seen people say that loyalty isn't really a flaw. It's like one of those fake flaws, like how in romance genres you have the clumsy girl. It's not really a fault. It's not really a flaw. It's just there to make the protagonist even more Mary Sue. But Percy's really is a fatal flaw, and his loyalty stems from his suicidal nature, which is not touched on at all in the books except for a gag, I guess you can call it. I don't really know. The way that it's brought up, I have many thoughts, on Percy's suicidal tendencies and how that affects his relationship with himself compared to his relationship with others. I will eventually make a video on that one day, but let's focus on the video at hand. The last little bit that I was going to add into the series that I really hope makes it into the TV show is actually showing ADHD and dyslexia, not just saying it. Look, I'm not saying that ADHD and dyslexia isn't present in the series. It's just present when it's convenient and not there when it isn't convenient, story wise. I'm not saying that it's inherently a superpower. It does delay them at times, but only when it's good for the story. Um, I want to see, like, Percy covertly stimming. I don't really know how else to explain it because of the way he grew up and the places he went, like Yancey Academy, which wouldn't really be okay with stimming, and so he has to do it covertly. Versus, like, say, Annabeth, who would be very open with her stimming because she's been a camper since she was 7. She's been in this environment where others stim just like her, and she wasn't ever penalized or punished for it, especially not by Chiron. He never would have. So it'd be interesting to see her just, doing very open, very visible stems, maybe even vocal stems, or chew, like a chew necklace or something, maybe a lot of gum. Percy would have a gum habit. I'm just saying that right now. That is probably one of the most covert ways to stem. Percy would have a gum habit. Um, so I want to see that. I want to see the characters stimming, and I want to see dyslexia affecting speech. I don't actually see that a lot. Dyslexia, when it's represented, is the I can't read disease. It's treated solely as an issue with reading or spelling. It's not touching on every other aspect that dyslexia touches on. And if I could see that in a show, that would be awesome. Like, you don't know how much I have to cut out because of my dyslexia. I mix up words all the time. I forget words. I can talk. I want to make that clear. I can hold a conversation just fine, but sometimes words get jumbled. Words come out wrong. Words get mixed together. I take 2 words and make them into 1 word, or I say a word wrong even though I know the correct saying, or I forget the word entirely. This is part of dyslexia. And I just would love to see that. I would love for, like, I made a whole, like, list of things, but, like, one of my favorite examples would be Luke getting so into his speech, like his villain speech, that he blanks out for a second and then he forgets where he was and he has to backtrack and do it again. I think that would be very funny to see and part of the ADHD experience. Just, I want to see the disability or divergency or learning difference, whatever you prefer calling it. I mostly use neurodivergent or learning disabled when it comes to my dyslexia. Those are the terms I tend to use. But regardless, I want to actually see these neurodivergent kids be neurodivergent kids. And I don't know, it's a fantasy, I guess, to be in a world where I don't have to adjust myself to please strangers around me. This is a fantasy story. I can have fantasy wishes. Just make it a wish fulfillment. Okay? I trust that Rick won't let us down. And I will be wearing this shirt when the premiere comes on in 2 days. so excited. Well, until next time, I will see you later.